As the Lunar New Year wrapped up, Chinese private automotive manufacturer BYD, Build Your Dream, from mainland China, faced another incident. On February 15th, a BYD vehicle, suspected to be from Bozhou City, Anhui Province, suddenly caught fire on the roadside. Soon after, fire trucks arrived at the scene, but according to bystanders, the vehicle was almost completely burned. Internet users didn't express much surprise at this latest fire incident involving BYD, as the brand has long been associated with various safety hazards. Criticisms and condemnations often follow mentions of BYD.
Originally, I didn't plan to talk about BYD because it would make me feel stupid for buying one. This is the domestically produced new energy and top-ranked BYD that I wholeheartedly supported at that time. When I was choosing a car, a friend also recommended to me Geely, Trumpchi, and other brands, but I thought BYD's technology and quality were the best at the time because it was the first among Chinese car companies to develop electric vehicles. We trust domestic brands so much, but what's the feedback from users? If they don't even bother to make a good quality small fan, what do you expect from their cars? I have driven a Toyota gasoline car for more than 300,000 kilometers. I've also replaced some parts, and the quality is very good. Why do other people make things sincerely and don't cut corners? When will our domestic brands stop relying on bragging and deceiving people and make really useful and durable cars?
In response to accusations of quality issues, BYD failed to provide meaningful answers. Instead, recent rumors suggest the company plans to enter the American automotive market by establishing a factory in Mexico. According to the Wall Street Journal, sources revealed that BYD, headquartered in Shenzhen, is scouting factory locations in Mexico and has begun feasibility studies. The Mexican Ministry of Economy stated that Stella Li, a senior executive at BYD, visited Mexico in January 2024 to discuss the company's expansion plans and negotiate terms, including factory location, with local officials. BYD, renowned for its affordability in China, surpassed its largest competitor, Tesla, in the last quarter of 2023, becoming the world's top-selling electric vehicle manufacturer. It's believed that BYD's reasons for potentially establishing a factory in Mexico are to lower costs and evade tariffs. Mexico serves as a natural transit point for Chinese automakers entering the American market due to its proximity, relatively lower labor costs, and opportunities to benefit from low or no tariffs on Mexican-made cars. Currently, Chinese-made electric cars imported into the U.S. face a 27.5% tariff, composed of a 2.5% standard tariff for imported vehicles and an additional 25% tariff imposed by the Trump administration in 2018 on Chinese-made cars. The Biden administration is reportedly considering further tariff increases on Chinese electric cars and has restricted eligibility for the $7,500 consumer subsidy for cars containing Chinese batteries. In contrast, cars produced in Chinese-owned factories in Mexico will only be charged the standard 2.5% tariff. If the cars produced in Mexico meet the strict local content standards outlined in the 2020 U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement, they may even be exempt from tariffs. Moreover, Mexico's INMEX program serves as an effective tool to avoid U.S.-China trade tariffs. INMEX stands for Manufacturing, Maquiladora, and Export Services Industry. Maquiladora refers to foreign-owned factories located near the U.S.-Mexico border, allowing companies to temporarily import raw materials and components into Mexico duty-free for processing or assembly. Combined with tax incentives, lower labor costs, and faster, cheaper transportation, Maquiladora factories offer an ideal way to avoid taxes for companies affected by U.S. import tariffs. Jeff Matthews, Senior Vice President of East West Bank, pointed out that Chinese companies can export raw materials or low-value added products directly to Mexico with this tax avoidance method. Similarly, U.S. companies can have Chinese suppliers ship products directly to Mexico or engage in production and processing in Mexico before importing finished products into the U.S. Another reason behind BYD's attempt to enter the U.S. market is to clear inventory and alleviate excess production capacity. In recent years, China's massive subsidies for electric vehicles led to a surge in new energy automotive companies, resulting in severe overcapacity. Combined with economic downturns and reduced consumer spending, the Chinese automotive industry witnessed intense competition in 2023, with numerous closures amid price wars. Reports indicate that BYD's inventory backlog is severe, with numerous abandoned vehicles. In one parking lot in Wenzhou, China, referred to as the BYD Ocean, hundreds of BYD vehicles sit covered in dust. To address this predicament, BYD implemented various measures, including lowering factory prices by approximately 10,000 to 20,000 yuan, about $1,390 to $2,800, and intensifying promotional efforts. Some dealers mentioned that despite price reductions, it remains challenging to attract customers. Industry insiders point out that the root cause of low demand lies in consumers' dwindling purchase power. In 2023, with declining income levels and widespread unemployment, Chinese society is becoming poorer, a trend more pronounced than in 2022. Studies indicate that if the international GDP to personal income ratio is used as a metric, about 95% of Chinese people would fall into the poverty category. It's estimated that the top 1% of Chinese society may possess over 95% of the wealth, possibly even over 99%. While the desire to buy cars exists among the general population, many lack the financial means or hesitate to make purchases. The inventory backlog at BYD reflects another issue of severe overcapacity in the Chinese automotive industry, which is now exporting globally. Since joining the World Trade Organization in 2001, China has benefited from its low-cost made-in-China goods in developing its foreign trade economy. However, with a sluggish real estate market, weak consumption, and a depreciating currency, export prices of Chinese goods are declining at the fastest rate since the 2008 financial crisis. Chetan Sehgal, portfolio manager of Franklin Templeton Emerging Markets Equity Fund, suggests that China, to reverse its situation, may export excess capacity globally, placing pressure on global markets. In this context, establishing factories in Mexico seems to be a survival move for BYD and other Chinese enterprises. According to stock exchange announcements, at least 12 Chinese electric vehicle component suppliers have announced plans to build new factories in Mexico or increase investment in existing ones. However, this practice has raised concerns in the West. Products manufactured in China are perceived to have certain safety hazards. For Chinese electric vehicles, fires are the most common and fatal problem. According to reports from Chinese state media, in 2021 alone, there were at least 3,000 incidents of new energy vehicle fires in China, with the top 5 brands involved being Chinese companies, among which BYD ranked first. Fire incidents involving BYD accounted for nearly 1/3, earning it the title of King of Spontaneous Combustion. On January 14, 2024, a fire alarm went off at a bus parking lot in Qingdao, Shandong Province. According to media reports, an abandoned BYD bus suddenly caught fire, suspected to have spontaneously combusted. Due to strong winds that day, the fierce fire quickly spread to other scrapped buses nearby. Video circulating on social media showed thick black smoke billowing from the scene, causing panic among witnesses. The person who filmed the incident said that 8 buses were destroyed, with 7 of them reduced to their frames. Firefighters managed to control the blaze just as it was about to spread to the 9th bus. Social media platforms are filled with complaints about issues such as BYD DMI malfunction and brake failure. On October 2022, a netizen named Springbrother 9Z5Q posted a video stating that while driving his BYD Han DMI on the highway, the throttle suddenly malfunctioned, with the engine speed remaining at just over 1,000 RPM and the speed hovering around 80 km per hour. Despite attempts to accelerate, there was no response. Fortunately, as traffic was light, he managed to slowly maneuver the vehicle onto the emergency lane. However, even after several attempts, he couldn't accelerate and had to stop and restart the car to resolve the issue. Unexpectedly, a month later, his BYD Han encountered safety problems again, including remote control, Windows, NFC, and app all malfunctioning, and sometimes he was unable to start the vehicle. He had to return the car to the dealership for repairs. Another netizen, Yo, reported that his BYD Song Plus DMI, purchased at the end of July last year, encountered complete power loss and couldn't be started while on the road. Even with sufficient fuel, the battery level dropped to 2%, eventually draining completely. He emphasized the danger of the situation. Luckily, he was not driving at a high speed. Additionally, Dai Zhiyan, deputy researcher at the Chonghua Institution for Economic Research, added that sometimes electric cars may not immediately catch fire after a collision. It could happen the next day. Furthermore, after being driven for a while, these cars start making various noises, indicating poor assembly quality, regardless of how sleek the car looks. Meanwhile, some entrepreneurs have issued warnings about the hidden dangers of low-cost manufacturing. Some have even suggested that the government take more action to prevent a price war triggered by cheap products in the United States and to prevent Chinese automotive companies from monopolizing the U.S. market. Major U.S. automakers have warned that Chinese cars could pose a threat to their prospects. Carlos Tavares, CEO of multinational automaker Stellantis, worries that these Chinese companies competing on cost could force his company to abandon the market. Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla, expressed similar concerns, stating in a Tesla earnings call that without trade barriers, these Chinese-manufactured electric vehicle companies would almost certainly destroy most automotive companies worldwide. Musk's views were echoed by the Alliance for American Manufacturing. The alliance stated that Chinese cars are so inexpensive due to subsidies from the Chinese Communist Party. If they enter the U.S. market, it could lead to the demise of the U.S. automotive industry. Some companies commented that using American taxpayers' money to subsidize Chinese companies is unwise, as it could consolidate China's industry dominance and harm domestic manufacturers. Eric Olson, vice president of the American Rail Security Alliance, said that allowing state-owned China Railway Rolling Stock Corporation to build factories in the U.S., earning U.S. taxpayers' money, and sending it back to Communist China will gradually realize Beijing's Made in China 2025 campaign. In response, Republican Congressman Mike Gallup and Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamurti, along with Representatives Haley Stevens and John Molinar from Michigan, wrote to U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai. They jointly urged the U.S. to maintain and increase tariffs on Chinese cars. The letter stated that the Office of the United States Trade Representative should consider initiating a new Section 301 investigation into the harm caused by the Chinese automotive industry to the U.S. automotive industry and American workers, and to advise how to counter China's attempts to dominate the global automobile market. These lawmakers also warned that the U.S. should be prepared to address Chinese companies taking advantage of U.S. free trade agreements to export cars such as through Mexico. At the same time, the U.S. needs to take urgent action against China's unfair practices to ensure that car manufacturers and workers can compete on fair terms in the U.S. and globally. Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio and Democratic Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania even warned President Biden not to reduce tariffs on Chinese goods. They wrote, "These tariffs are essential to level the playing field for American workers to compete and counter unfair trade practices by China." It is evident that Chinese automakers entering the U.S. market will face obstacles. Analysts say that besides American consumers' reluctance to support a Chinese brand, U.S. lawmakers are likely to scrutinize Chinese companies to operate in the U.S. Additionally, there are studies showing that besides safety hazards and threats to the U.S. automotive market, Chinese electric vehicles also pose risks of remote control manipulation, which is a significant concern. Christopher Balding, founder of the New Kite Data Lab, said that Chinese-made technology can control many different parts of electric vehicles, allowing them to access a large amount of sensitive data in the background and control systems. Balding explained that the electric vehicle's battery or other systems may contain malicious code. If Chinese hackers choose to use this data, they can eavesdrop or use the data for surveillance and even control a car's microphone or braking system. Not only do Chinese vehicles come with a risk of hacking, but also forced compliance with the Chinese authorities. Balding emphasized that China produces a large number of Internet of Things devices, from headphones to components, which may be used in products such as ovens and cars. We know they collect data internally, so they come with surveillance and security risks. This is especially true because many devices lack Internet security features, making it easier for hackers to infiltrate. Some commentators also add that electric vehicles have more monitoring capabilities, such as cameras, microphones, and sensors for passenger weight. Thus, personal behavior Conversations had in the car, text messages and phone calls, everything can be monitored. These pose a significant danger to privacy and even constitutes a form of targeted group monitoring. Furthermore, U.S. officials believe that there are no true private enterprises in China, and any large enterprise needs to maintain close ties with the government and obey the party. U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo highlighted at the Washington think tank Atlantic Council that Chinese government subsidies for electric vehicle production have significantly increased sales of Chinese-made electric vehicles in Europe. This distorts trade and raises national security concerns. In response, Balding urges people to refrain from purchasing Chinese-made cars. Chinese components undoubtedly exist in a large number of vehicles, whether electric or gas-powered.